So I've got this, I picked up this pressure lubed Briggs Stratton opposed twin. You can see it's got a filter back there. This one's the real deal. This is the good one that doesn't grab the piston sleeve and snap connecting rods. That's what I got told by a Briggs Stratton dealer. Like I went in for some parts because I was rebuilding one, and I don't even bother. It's, you know, it's probably already grabbed the piston sleeve once and moved it back into place, and that's what makes the connecting rod snap. But this one's pressure lubed, so it doesn't have that problem. But those ones are splash lubricated. These ones you can take the governor off, rev them, and as long as you got a good flywheel, which yikes, that's cast iron. I don't know, but people apparently rev these up to 10K with the stock flywheel and have no problems. So I think I'll be fine doing 5K. So I got some plans with this, but first it needs some inspection. One, there's dead bugs and stuff inside of it, which isn't a recommended fuel. They're supposed to fermentate and turn to oil before that happens. That takes thousands of years, so it feels too new for this. But anyway, so from what I've heard, there's a certain generation of Briggs & Stratton overhead valve engines that came before the Intech, and those are based off of the flathead engines, and these are based off of the same flathead engine, but it's basically two of them put together. So I'm really wondering how difficult it would be to remove the valves, keep the lifters and camshaft, and put push rods through here and stick a head on it off of that. Because I checked on an Intech, the pattern is actually the same, except it's a little bit smaller, and the valves are here. But I think on the non-Intech they come through there. But first issue is this valve is fully open, and this one should be fully closed, but I'm able to spin it. And on the other side, you'll notice that the intake valve is not easy to, well, it's kind of open on that side. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, you see, that one doesn't move. So, then we got a little bit of piston play, and it's burning a little bit of oil. So this was, I just got it cheap because the guy who had it just, you know, he didn't want it anymore. A customer of his, or something like that, gave it to him for a rebuild, and then he changed his mind, just bought a Predator for 20 and let him keep it. And he didn't have much to do with it, and so he just sold it to me. And so now I've got to deal with this, which I'm not mad about at all. This is I got this a really good deal. It was amazing. It was everything I thought it would be. Actually better, because I thought it was the non-pressure lube. So I got a really rare engine. All it needs is a starter, and it would be a runner. But it would only be running off of one cylinder, because it doesn't have compression on the side. So what I'm going to do is take this exhaust shield off, take the valve cover off, and see what's in there that's stopping it from closing. And then I'm gonna have to take, let's see, this starter right here, and take the brushes off of this one and stick it into that starter. Then mount the starter, take a car battery, and crank this thing and see how it goes. It's probably gonna smoke like crazy. And I think this needs new piston rings too. But yeah, that insect isn't. I don't think it likes this engine because it's dead. But yeah, let's tear into it, I guess. I'm looking in there. It's very dirty on both, kind of oily, but unfortunately I had to take the whole intake manifold off in order to reach this one valve cover. So I think I'm going to vacuum this, and then I'm going to start tearing it apart a little bit more. What's also concerning is that, oh wait, nope, there's a lip, never mind. I thought for a second that this whole thing was part of the valve cover, because I know on some of these it is. I have one sitting in my shed that was going to be a rebuild. That's the one that actually grabbed the cylinder bore and snapped both connecting rods, or that's what I was told. But yeah, that one has a thing where this whole heat shield is part of the valve cover, but on this one there's a pretty clear lip, like right, I'm sorry about my horrible camera work, but yeah, right there. So I just gotta look into that and start cleaning it up a little more. And also the overhead valve idea, what I'm gonna have to do is, if those heads happen to fit and the push rods all work together, I have to figure out a way to sync up the carburetors. And also, this is going to be mounted differently, so I have to figure out a way to mount the carburetor so that it's not on its side, unless I could find a pulse carburetor or something, or, you know, make my own custom intake. Like if it's just a plastic tube that carries over, like on most Briggs engines, I could cut it, put a piece of hose, and just rotate it like those Mikuni adapters they use on the 212s. So yeah, I could just plug these off. And as for the oil, you know, lubrication getting there. Now this is valve guides. The push rods would probably be the same size as the valve stem, so it just move through them and there wouldn't be a problem with oiling on that. But it's the issue of how would the oil get through. And that's where the, I have two options. I've looked into this. Someone's tried this before to no valve. I don't know what happened. It was like a full-on power sports company that was trying to make a conversion thing. But it's running this, removing the PCV valve, and just running it straight to the valve cover. And I don't know how. I think you'd run an oil catch can after that. But I have a better idea. Running an actual PCV valve, but having a breather go back to the crankcase, and having an oil pump coming off of it. Okay, so it's got an oil pump right here. And for those turbo kits you get for Honda Civics, they have this like sandwich adapter that goes in between this oil filter. Come on, I took this off yesterday. It's not like it's... Alright, that goes in between this filter. Oh, we're making a mess. Well, anyway, that goes in between that filter, and it's got these fittings. So if I could take like a oil injector off of like a Yamaha scooter, Jesus, oil everywhere. If I could take an oil injector off of one of those and run it so that it's just getting a little bit of oil where it needs, and then have a PCV breather shooting all the oil back into the crankcase somehow, I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. So I gotta look into it some more, because the head might not even bolt up. This, from what I understand, it's not an 8 horsepower this is based off of. This is based off of a 12 horse, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just gotta look into it some more. I'm going to a junkyard pretty soon that has plenty of those engines, so I might pull ahead and bring it over and see if I can get it to fit. About this being a separate piece and it being one piece. This is unnecessary. There's no PCV valve. I don't know why they put this valve cover here. I guess it's because they had different applications which require different covers and stuff and different breathers. Because the one on my go-kart has 2 of these breathers, so it probably would have had a whole cut in there and this put on top. But this has no gasket. I don't know if someone's been inside of this or messed with it before. That's weird. I've never seen anything like that. This oil smells horrible. It smells like gear oil or supercharger oil, like burnt. So something's not maintained here. Alright, so this valve is supposedly, yep, fully closed. It's still got some play in it. I don't know what's going on with that. That's not good. I don't know what to think. I haven't seen that before. It's not like I could just adjust it. This is a flathead. So, hold on. I see a little bit of a ridge there where it looks like that's the darker part is just because it's been covered in oil and has never moved past that wall. And the silver colored part has moved. Yeah, it's moving, but it's not. That lifter is spinning. That's weird. Kind of wish these had hydraulic lifters like the Kohlers, but you know. I'm gonna have to tear this whole side cover off. That's not good. Basically what this consists of is I looked into it, and I gotta get the gapping tool in it. The feeler gauge. So I can see what the gap is in between the two, which is probably going to be like none of them are going to fit. But so from what I've understood, the valve stems, they just stretch over time because of the spring, and they don't close all the way. And there's 2 ways to do it. Now, if I had a spring remover, I'd go with the method of just removing the spring. And I've never removed the spring on a flathead, and I want to get this thing running today. So here's my idea. Rather than grinding the valve itself, I've got so many of these spare lifters laying around from my other parts engine. What I want to do is pull the cam out and actually grind the lifter itself, and then put it back together. So I got to get the gapping tool in there and figure it out. Also, something notable is that you can't really convert a non-pressure lube engine to pressure lube. It's got to be a pressure lubed crank and everything, because let's see, that's the oil pump hole, which leads into there, and well, wait, hold on. Actually, yeah, no. Yeah, that's a normal screw hole, but then it goes down into the block, and it's got a hole here that also goes, yeah. Yep, it goes to the cam as well, because the cam's got a hole in the middle, and I guess it squirts out on the lobes. So what I'm going to do is, to make it a little easier on me, is spin this thing to top dead center on both sides, so that both valves are closed, so where the cam marks line up, and pull the cam out, and then, well, actually no, I'm going to gap it first. Make sure there's not play in this. I'm going to gap it first, and then I'm gonna get it top dead center, leave the valves open so I can pull the lifter out and put it back in without a problem. But looking inside of it, I don't know if it's because I haven't taken one of these apart in a while. But those rods look awfully not stock. Not like performance, but more like, not like I've seen them. I think that they're special because this is a pressure lube engine, but I'm not 100% sure. I gotta look into it some more. Also notable, in the governor area, it's perfectly like perfect, but here it's all oily, so I wonder why. It doesn't move at all, and the gapping tool says it's correct, so hold on. It goes in just fine. So I've developed a theory. It's that I'm stupid and I shouldn't have taken this apart because now I need to find the RTV. Basically, the way that this is set up, because this is an opposed twin, but it fires all weird. Where if they're both at top dead center, if there's never a point where all 4 valves are closed at once. This one's timed really weird. They all are. All of these Briggs opposed twins are like this. So I gotta put it back together, just run it and see which side burns oil from where it's coming from, and then do a little bit more investigative work. A little bit more messing around and wiggling around, that valve is finally seating correctly. So I think what happened was I had a stuck lifter. I've got another engine, the opposed twin that I was talking about, that snapped both connecting rods in the camshaft because it grabbed the piston bore and it snapped the connecting rods. Yeah, that one had a problem with a stuck lifter that I could never fix. That might just be an issue because there's not much oil in here, and this engine probably hasn't run in a while. Looking inside, like the top of it is completely dry. I don't know that this thing's run in quite a while, so it might just not have had oil, and now that I've messed with it a little bit, it's free. So I'm gonna put it all the way back together except for the exhaust, and just get it running like primitively, and then once everything's back, or once I know for sure it's running right and it's not burning oil, tins, exhaust, and then I'll find something to put it on. It might actually get put into storage for a day or so, and then I'm going to pull it back out and see if I can get those overhead valve heads on it. But yeah, this thing's one hell of a project coming together, I think. Basically, I've got the heads back on, and you can feel that there's good compression on both sides, and it's blowing air through both, so it's going to run. But my concern here is that on this exhaust valve, there's oil, which means that the valve seat is very worn. Or not the valve seat, the valve guide, which gives me another excuse to, overhead valve swap. But I'm gonna look into that some more because I honestly don't think it's possible. But it's an idea. So it might actually require the lifters out of that engine too, because these ones might be too long or too short, and I could always solve that issue by trimming either, whichever one I need to take off of. I've noticed that it's got this port right here, which I think would work for, like, if you wanted to add a turbo and needed a pressure line. And I guess, if you wanted a return line, you could always put it here, but with that valve guide being a little tricky, I don't know about that idea. But yeah, it's coming together. This cover's not actually on. It's just on there so that I could rotate it without having crap fall out. But I gotta go to O'Reilly and get some RTV sealant, because I don't have any more new gaskets. I had one, but that went on another engine. The starter about to be put together, but the problem with the opposed twin starters is that everything's up here. So I gotta figure that out. I don't know if I just take the bottom cap off of this or if I put this in there, but I don't see any. This where that would go. So I'm really wondering if I could just ignore whatever's up here. I have to take this apart a little more to figure it out. And basically, because this won't go in, because this little piece off the side where that bolt would normally stick through, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole like right here and run it through the back, so it, when it's mounted it sticks, when it's mounted there, it would basically like stick straight out from underneath. And yeah. So instead of sticking like out the side, it would stick out the back, and that way I could grind this piece off and just stick it in there. But I gotta see what's going on up here, because I might be able to just take all the brushes. Now the trick to compressing these brushes is to take these brass nails and just stick them in front of them so that they stay in place, so they'll fit on the stator or the rotor. Had this thing on upside down, so it goes in like that. But my concern is that the magnets in the stator are really strong. Anyway, I'm concerned that this rotor is very dark and burnt looking, and so is the varnish on these wires. But this looks fine. My brushes on that one look okay, so I'll just see how it works. And if it doesn't, then I'll have to take the guts out of that one and put it into there and leave this shaft on. It'll be a mess, but whatever. Cranking the starter, and I noticed nothing was happening, and I realized it's because, why is my video like this? Jeez, everything's all stretched. I realized it's because I forgot these keepers in that I used to hold the brushes, but hopefully now it'll crank. And it flipped itself over from all the torque, so this is a good starter, besides this piece that it's a little bit broken. But hopefully, just while I'm testing it, it won't eat through the ring gear. It's not good to run it long without an exhaust. It's just a test, but it's running hot on both sides. That's good. No, I didn't like that. Well, yeah, it works.